Based on what I've seen and read of him, Quentin Tarantino the person seems like an egocentric prick. But as a filmmaker, while his work isn't always to my taste, he is undeniably an extremely talented writer-director. Inglourious Basterds is Tarantino's 7th film, depending on how you count, and is an alternate history period action drama about two different, concurrent attempts to assassinate Hitler during a movie premiere in 1944. Tarantino is one of Hollywood's few remaining auteurs. Like Stanley Kubrick, Alfred Hitchcock, David Lynch, Paul Thomas Anderson, and the Coen brothers, Tarantino treats film as a true art form, and I believe that Inglourious Basterds, despite some, shall we say, balancing issues, represents the pinnacle of his filmmaking gift. Inglourious Basterds is full of beautiful cinematography and location shooting, long takes, an evocative, sometimes cleverly anachronistic soundtrack, and incredibly deep, complex characterization. There are 2 scenes that effectively function as short films on their own. They consist of just 2 people sitting and talking at a table, but the actors flourish in tense cat-and-mouse games in which you are unsure how much the villain, the genial yet sadistic Colonel Hans Landa, played by Christoph Waltz, really knows. You find yourself holding your breath in dread-filled hope and anticipation, and Waltz generates an aura of horrific awe. He is manipulative and cruel, regarding Jews as vermin, but he is also warm and charming, almost fatherly. Like Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood or Wallace Breen in Half-Life 2, Colonel Landa is a villain who behaves like a friend and softly pulls your guard down, even though this may doom you or the people who have placed their trust in you. Christoph Waltz deservedly won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar in 2010 for his chillingly charismatic performance as Colonel Landa. In the first scene I mentioned, Mr. Lapetite, Dennis Menochet, gives in to Landa the gentle predator, but conversely, in the second scene, Shoshana Dreyfus, Melanie Laurent, whose family was slaughtered by Landa's men and now has a new life as a cinema manager under the alias of Emmanuelle Mimieux, holds her own. Through acting of remarkable measured restraint, we can sense the frantic feelings running through Shoshana's head. Has he figured me out? Should I run? Does he know? Am I about to die? Act normal, don't let him suspect anything. I also love the ending of this scene. When Landa, having failed to recognize Shoshana, leaves the cafe, all of Shoshana's pent-up stress and fear is released in one gasping burst of relief. Laurent was nominated for Best Supporting Actress that year, but she should have been nominated for Leading Actress, as Shoshana is the film's protagonist. Laurent is just as compelling as Waltz, conveying an emotionally reserved, steely demeanor bolstered by a fierce, calculating determination to achieve justice. There are several scenes that function like mini-movies, such as the tavern scene and the introduction of the Bear Jew, but the 2 with Landa and Shoshana are the best. This is a film of crackling dialogue, nuanced characters, and sustained suspense, and almost every part can operate as a tense, fascinating organism, but together they form something even greater. Which is why this next comparison may surprise you. Tarantino is well known for borrowing from and paying tribute to other works of film. Reservoir Dogs draws heavy influence from Kubrick's The Killing, Phil Carson's Kansas City Confidential, and Ringo Lam's City of Fire. Kill Bill is very reminiscent of Lady Snowblood, and Django Unchained is a stylized tribute to spaghetti westerns. But you know what Inglourious Basterds reminds me of? A Godfrey Ho film. Godfrey Ho was a prolific Hong Kong director who became notorious for cutting 2 or more films together, dubbing over them, and shooting a few scenes to flimsily connect them together. The Cinema Snob has reviewed plenty of Godfrey Ho films in his early years, and my old friends Greg and Victor have reviewed a couple as well.
And then he'll suddenly say, "Oh, and I'm not afraid of your vampires either, because they're in another movie."
Wouldn't it be awesome if all movies did that?
Do what you will with me, parole board, but Dr. Malcolm will stop your dinosaur army.
If you don't know Godfrey Ho from his Splice jobs, then you might know him from his 1994 martial arts movie Undefeatable, which he actually directed as one single project. Undefeatable stars Cynthia Rothrock and concludes with one of the most wonderfully terrible fight scenes ever filmed. Inglourious Basterds' two main plot threads both revolve around the nation's pride movie premiere at Shoshana Cinema, with Shoshana planning to burn down the theater with Goebbels and other Nazi leaders inside, and Lieutenant Aldo Rain and his Bastard squad planning to blow up the theater for the same Nazi-killing results. These plot threads and their respective characters work independently, never intersect, except through Colonel Landa, and aren't even aware of each other. Despite his prominence as the overall antagonist, Landa only interacts with Shoshana in those two scenes I've been lauding. It almost feels like a more skilled Godfrey Ho took a movie about the Bastards trying to kill Hitler and being trailed by Landa, and a movie about Shoshana trying to kill Hitler, spliced them together and shot these scenes with Landa and Shoshana to connect them together, beyond the common setting and objective, of course. I'm not the only one to make this comparison, so has Level 54 Space Monkey on the Film Dump. The film is a lot more cohesive than I'm making it sound, and comparisons to Godfrey Ho are not necessarily a bad thing. Given Tarantino, the stylistic similarities may have been intentional. I will say, however, that the segments with the title Bastards are the least interesting parts of the film. The Bastards' exploits as fascist-killing, Nazi-scalping Jewish-American soldiers stationed in occupied France are cool, fun, and witty, and replete with the bloody, ultraviolent bombast Tarantino loves, but feel like a slight letdown, ironically, from the more intelligent, cunning, slow burn of Shoshana's story. I would have gladly watched an entire movie about Shoshana as a Jew seeking vengeance for her murdered family, or an exploitation movie solely featuring the Bastards. Put them together, and one can only overshadow the other. All things considered, Inglourious Basterds is still a great film, and earns 4.25 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching. Cheers.